So lads, yesterday I made a documentary, and in the 2K19 one, I kind of went over a lot of what I had in, say, the top 5 most overpowered squads, or overpowered cards in every single month. But last year I realized that a lot of it was kind of a little bit out of date. I was, say, putting people in the wrong months, but a lot of you guys really wanted to see that, and I saw it a lot while looking at the premiere. So in this video, we are going to be looking at the top 5 most overpowered cards, one per position for every single month throughout the year. It was something I forgot in the documentary yesterday, and you guys really seem to want it, so that's what we are going to be doing here. We're going to be going from September all the way to, what is August right now, or what is July, because there's no point going to August, because when it just becomes GOAT cards, it's just pointless. It's pointless just talking about GOAT cards at this stage. But anyway, yeah, now we're going to get onto it. So we're going to start off with September, and I'm saying this right now because it's hard to pinpoint the likes of D-Rob and stuff, because a lot of people got them different times. Also, I hated those cards. I don't mind them now. Like D-Rob now, heck, D-Rob even in like January is significantly better than, say, D-Rob was in September. Like, he got multiple upgrades. He didn't even have quick draw to start the game. And I hated that card. I much preferred this George Mikan. But these are the most OP players. Point guard, I don't think many would question Stockton. Like, there was Stephon Marbury who was good, but Stockton was just that much better. Like, he had half range, or he had goal range, goal quick draw, so he had a really quick release at the time. Also, got Hall of Fame clamps. J.R. Smith had goal quick draw, gold range as well. And he also had gold clamps, which was a huge thing for a card to have gold clamps in the game at that time. I didn't realize just quite how good this card was. And he didn't have steady, which was hilarious, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was like basically the J.R. Smith badge, which is steady, and I don't think he had it, which is kind of crazy. But he was definitely in here at the 2 guard. Other cards, like Kobe is in that conversation for the 2 guard position, but I think Smith was the best. Then Paul Pierce for small forward. I don't think there was many in that conversation other than Pierce, not going to lie. I don't think there was too many, because Pierce was really good. He had silver clamps. He also had goal range extender. He could shoot the ball really well. His release at the time on silver quick draw was fine. He was just really good. And he was by far the best small forward for me anyway. Then, the power forward position was weak. This was weak for months. Like, yeah, you could argue that there was a couple of half-decent ones in the token market. I didn't think so. You could argue that Serge Ibaka was pretty good. I didn't think so. Leitner, for me, could hit wide open. As well as that, while he was really slow, he had a really good shot block, so you could use him on the inside a little bit. He was a really good card for me. And then, as much as people would like to say that Mirasan was the best, he was day one. But by the end of the month, they basically patched the speed. They'd nerfed Mirasan, they were about to nerf Mirasan. And we had gotten this George Mikan card, who kind of completely took away Mirasan because he had Intimidator, as well as that he could outshoot Mirasan. He was like the first stretch big in the game. Surprisingly enough, we have not got a better George Mikan card in the game this year. Then we're going on to October. So this was a little bit of a different month. And personally, I'm saying this right now, there was a better card than Gilbert Arenas. Like, Stockton was better than Arenas. I'm saying that right now. But during the month of October, there was not that many great point guards released. So Gilbert Arenas was number 1. I'm pretty sure he had base 11. I think he either had half or gold range extender. He couldn't play any defense, but offensively he was exceptional. Then we had Terrence Ross, the 2 guard position. I love this card. That's all I'm going to say. From the second I had this card, I was a big fan. You could argue this guy right here. And today, if you were using cards, you probably would choose this card today. You probably choose Klay Thompson over this Terrence Ross if we were looking back on who to use today. However, back then, not every card had Hall of Fame quick first step. So as much as clamps was important, it wasn't the be-all and end-all. You could get away with a non-clamps player because not everyone had quick first step. Just like most centers didn't have clamps until really they started giving everyone quick first step. Because really, without basically clamps is a counter for the quick first step badge. And once they start giving everyone that badge, then you need clamps. But Terrence Ross, when he got evoed up to a diamond, he was insane. He shot the lights out. He could dunk on everybody. He had an unbelievable release. He was class. And there was one big problem with this Klay Thompson card as well. He just kept switching onto the other. He was glitched. He just kept switching onto the other team's center. It was the weirdest thing ever. Like, you'd be playing aim randomly and you're like, why is my center guarding their point guard? And this is before any centers had clamps. So you're just literally just getting blown by every time. You don't know what's happening. And it's because Klay Thompson is glitched to guard the center. He glitches matchups like. Then small forward position, I don't think there's much of a question about that Xavier McDaniel. He could shoot the lights out. He could handle the ball pretty well at that stage. He also was arguably the best defensive wing in the game. And then there was Kevin Love. You could go a couple of ways the power forward position, but I think Kevin Love was the best just because he was that stretch big. He could shoot really, really well. And at that stage, a lot of people were still running their zones. A lot of people hadn't adapted too much. There was still a lot of 2-3 zone. And for that reason, I think LaFrance centers were kind of one of two ways back in October. You were either going with your giants, which was Mirasan, or most people, when they were going with their giants, went with this guy right here. I would evoed up Rick Smits, because Rick Smits could actually, he could shoot the ball a little bit, not from three, but he could hit a mid-range shot. So a lot of people went with Rick Smits over Mirasan, especially after they nerfed Mirasan, which I think happened either at the end of September or the start of October. And it was one of these two ways you could go. However, I think in terms of pick and pop bigs, as much as I like Mikan, and the fact that Duncan came out right after, Duncan came out on the 1st of November, Duncan would be here otherwise, but I think that LaFrance was the number one center, especially just because he had quick draw and was a sniper. Not necessarily his 86 overall, but once he got to that 92 overall, Amethyst or 91 overall, he was incredible. Then we've got November. So, funnily enough, Paul George and Tim Duncan were one day away from being in the October lineup. They're here in the November one. So, point guards, this was a very close one. This was all preference. This was all personal preference between Derrick Rose and I just realized there's too many people named Davis and Baron Davis. It was between one of these two guys, or you were either running Rose, Davis, or Stockton. You were only running one of 3 point guards at this stage in this game. You were running one of these three guys and nobody else. Unless you were a crazy person running with like Pink Diamond Harden, because I think there was one or two of them if he was out in November. Then the two guard position, it wasn't a particularly close, and it was Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine was incredible. He was the best two guard by a mile up until Christmas. There was a reason why he was so expensive, and that Donovan Mitchell card was like 300k. He was like $500,000 because of how good he was. This card was ridiculously good, lads. Then Paul George. It was a weird, and there was a lot of good two guys that came out that month. Like Kobe came out that month, and Kobe was really good. I think Eddie Johnson came out in November as well, who was good, but there wasn't that many other great small forwards. So Paul George kind of comfortably enough in here as the number one. PG had a good release. His only downside was that he only had silver quick first step and he had silver steady, but he was a good defender, had great height, could play the two, shot the ball really well, and just a great card. The power forward position was awful, lads. It was awful. That's all I'm going to say. Like, Kevin Love was probably better than... Actually, no. Rashard Lewis was pretty good. But couldn't play defense. Offensively, he was godly. He was godly. He was basically like Kevin Love with handles. He couldn't play defense at all. However, on like the 1st of December, Siakam came out, who was just way better. However, this is the November list, so Rashard Lewis is in there. Now we're on to the December list. This was like, look at the gap between these cards and these cards. Like, Rose and Simmons is a comparison, but like, even Levine versus T-Mac. T-Mac is so much better. Like, look at PG versus Odom. PG, silver steady, silver quick first step. Odom had 40 gold badges. 40. It was 6'10". He was ridiculous. And then, Rashard Lewis and Giannis. There is no even debate right there. The center position, though, in December was a bit of a weird one because it was between Bosch and Yao Ming, and it all depended on what your playstyle was. If you wanted to run like with a bit of height and shoot the ball occasionally, Yao Ming was perfect. However, you wanted to pick and pop big. Chris Bosh was a ideal card. Wasn't really any options for budget guys in terms of pick and pop bigs from what I remember. I'm pretty sure I was in one of my budget squads. I was running. I don't even remember who I was using in December. Like, I tried to use like Boogie and he just wasn't good enough. Then we have got January. January was around the time of the 250k. However, Magic and AD were out the next week. These two guys were insane. They were insane. Early enough in the month, KP came out. He was the Prime Series 2, the very first card. Funnily enough, he was in the very first Prime Series 2. He was the reward. Then for Prime Series 3, he was one of the Prime VIP sets from the very first one, which was Luka. We have Brandon Roy at the 2. I genuinely do think I'd still take that Tracy McGrady over Brandon Roy, not going to lie. However, Brandon Roy, for this month was the best 2 guard that came out this month. Like the December cards for Tracy McGrady, who was way better, but obviously Ray Allen was pretty great as well that month. December was a huge month. And in January, I do think Kawhi the best by a good bit at that small forward position. You can maybe argue this guy right here, but he had steady, which is kind of a big negative. Maybe argue Melo, but Kawhi was great. Kristaps, there wasn't any great power forwards, not going to lie. I genuinely think the next best power forward was probably the Antoine Walker card. And I'm not entirely sure he came with the... I don't think he came with the Evo. I think he might have genuinely been the second best power forward at that time. But Kristaps was out on his own, I think. Because a lot of people, when they were playing with power forwards in January, were just using Lamar Odom there. They were using him, so that's kind of... Or they were using Millsap as well. Millsap was pretty good. But then we've got February, and this... Look at the jump again. Look at the jump between January and February. Like, you've gone from Brandon Roy and worse Kawhi to way better Kawhi. A Kevin Durant card. A Bam Adebayo, who was actually basically AD with a handle. Like, Bam wasn't that much better than AD, but like LeBron versus that Magic wasn't even a close one. Man, this LeBron, at the time, I was not good with this card. I'm just going to say that right now. Like, if you wanted to argue that this dude was better, I'm not going to hold it against you. If you want to argue that Rose is better, or if you want to even argue Magic is better. However, you can tween. This LeBron can still tween, and he had range extender, which at the time was kind of big for a big point guard. There was no big shooting point guard range extender. That's the one thing Magic didn't have. However, Tracy McGrady, this Tracy McGrady was legitimately the best 2 guard in this game up to like May. I'm not even kidding. Then, like, I still have him. I'm pretty sure I still have him on my S tier. In my very last S tier 2 guards, and he came out in February. This is like 2K17 all over again, where Team Act comes out in February is one of the best cards in the game, and 2K18, as a matter of fact. Actually, no, 18, I think it was the 1st of March, if I'm right, with his packs. I could be wrong with that. Either way, Kevin Durant was incredible as well. Kawhi, I think actually this Kawhi's better than this Kevin Durant, but Kawhi was primary power forward. Even though he's not a power forward, he still was the best at that primary position, which is where we're working off. Then we've got Bam Adebayo, who, yeah, he was the best center that month. Bam could kind of do everything. He could handle it. He could shoot. He was just a really solid card. Now we're on to March, where there was another, apart from the 2 guard position, there was another massive gap. So this is it right here. So Giannis at the point guard position, but you could have gone a bunch of different ways. You could have gone with Giannis. You could have gone with Simmons. You could have gone with Campus Legends Magic Johnson. And the more I use these 3 cards, the more I actually prefer Giannis, to be completely honest. Mainly because I have been running Giannis a small or a power forward. And in February was when people started getting Dwayne Wade, by the way. So if you want to put Dwayne Wade over Team Act the 2 guard position, I'm not going to really argue that. The 2 guard position in March was terrible. It was terrible. I think in my most overpowered list, I had Jamal Crawford as my number 1, which he's not as good as Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine, great release, has got the Pro A tween. He was really good. Small forward position, Andrei Kirilenko for me was the best. He was probably the best for a good few weeks. He was a really good card. Power forward, when people started to get AD, he was arguably the best card in the game at this stage. He was fantastic. And in center, again, it was kind of a no-brainer. Like, yeah, they came out with Taco, they came out with Bull. It was pre-Evo, Taco Fall. And Kareem was by a mile the best of them. I don't think many, again, would argue that. Then we've got April. So April was so bad for the 2 guard position and the power forward position. It was crazy. Like, we've got Michael Redd for the 2 guard and Kristaps for power forward. And I'm not even kidding. Try find me a better power forward that came out in the month of April. Like, Thurl Bailey? Like, that's the caliber of players we'll be comparing to these guys. Walter Davis. My initial list for February or for April had Walter Davis as my 2 guard, and you know what? I think I might have. No, it's just gonna pain me. I might have to put Kobe. I don't like the card. I prefer give me Michael Redd over Kobe any day, but I think I might have to go with Kobe. So Kobe, yeah, for April. I did not like this card, but I'm going to have to put him in. Then we got LeBron James, no-brainer for the point guard position. Hedo Turkoglu, in my opinion, no-brainer for small forward. I think he's still absolutely elite. And then we have Kristaps for power forward. There was just no good power forwards. And a no-brainer again for Shaq. I genuinely thought this Shaq was better than last year's Shaq. So I thought this Shaq was going to be the best card in the game for the rest of the year. How wrong I was. This card is like barely a top 50 card right now. Then we're on to May. Again, the center positions in May, really the centers June and July is where we got our big ones. But in May, Eddie was the best center in my opinion. And we got no good power forwards either. I had Jeff Green. I looked. I've tried. I tried to find some. Jeff Green is the best power forward we got this month. It is nuts. We had no good power forwards. For so long, we had no good power forwards. Like, in June, I guess we got Kawhi Leonard, not Kawhi Leonard, we got Pascal Siakam, but, like, we got none. DeMar DeRozan, incredible. Absolutely incredible. Cards that you could argue, I don't think you can really argue anyone except T-Mac for the point guard position. Cards you can argue for that 2-guard position. Again, I might flip-flop between DeRozan, Glenn, and Jordan. I'm going to put DeRozan in there for now. Small forward, I think it's a no-brainer. It's Giannis, and these two guys were just a lack of other positions that these guys were in here. Now we're on to June, so the second last month. And again, we saw no good 2-guards. We saw a lot of good small forwards. Like, when people are looking at 2-guard or at the June month, who they're running at the 2, people were running with Jimmy. People were running with Kawhi. If you want to put in Kawhi for Rudy, I'm not gonna complain. Kawhi's incredible as well. I just prefer Rudy. But, like, most people would be running Kawhi at the 2. Most people were running with Jimmy at the 2. Guys like that. I'm not entirely sure if it was June or July when Wiggins came out. But, yeah, no. But at the 2-guard position, Eddie was the best 2-guard. By a significant amount in this month as well, which is kind of crazy. Point guard position, for me, it was LaMelo Ball. If you want to put in GOAT Magic Johnson, I'm not going to complain. I just think that LaMelo Ball was that little bit better. He just did that little bit more on the floor. Small forward, Rudy, Kawhi, again, really, really close. But there was a few good ones again, like Jimmy was a pretty good card. Then power forward position, again, there wasn't that many great power forwards. McHale was in that conversation maybe, but Larry was just a lot better. And then the center position, again, a no-brainer that it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I genuinely did not think that there was going to be a better card than Kareem in this game. And there is. And it's this Yao Ming. Now we're on to July. And, even look at the gap between June and July. And the gap between Eddie and, Porzingis. The gap between Rudy and Giannis in 2-backs. Think about dribble glitch, and Rudy maybe is a better release. AD, though, really great card. Porzingis, really good. Simmons, I think there's no debate that Simmons is the best point guard we've seen this month. Or we saw last month, sorry. However, one thing is that the center position, my God, we got so many good ones. I keep misspelling Eddie Curry. So last month we had Eddie Curry, we had Dino Raja, we had Goat Shaq. I'm pretty sure we had Goat Wilt. We also had Goat. Well, that was really it. But these got 5 guys, and we also had in June, we had James Wiseman as our center. So it's weird. There are so many power forwards and stuff, or so many centers that who uses a power forward anymore? Really, who uses a power forward? AD might be the best by a mile, but still, give me Eddie, give me Dino, give me either of these guys a power forward. Give me Wiseman a power forward over Anthony Davis. It's crazy. It's weird. The 2-guard position, unless you're running a Porzingis, everyone's just going to run a small forward there. Like a Rudy, like a Kawhi. That's who people are running. And it's mad. Point guard, small forward, centers are the only positions that matter. 2 guards, power forwards, and throughout the year you can see it. We had Leitner in here for power forward at the start of the year. We've had Porzingis in for 2 guards. We have had Levine in. We've had a reluctant Kobe Bryant in here, and then Jeff Green in power forwards, and then all of a sudden they just started, and Eddie Jones. Then we just got a ridiculous amount of great small forwards that can play at the 2. It's mad. The only 3 positions that you do not. You can be perfectly fine. You could have been perfectly fine all year if you never ran a primary 2-guard or never ran a primary. Actually, that's not true. That's not true. Because T-Mac existed. T-Mac really just was a game changer. But the small forward guys playing down like Kawhi and stuff, they were big. And right now, unless you're running Porzingis, there's no reason to run a primary 2-guard. But anyway, yeah, that is pretty much it. That's the video. Unfortunately, I could not get this in the documentary. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.